Today, Rinpoche continued his explanation of Nagarjuna's precious garland, showing how Nagarjuna advised the king that if you act in a virtuous way, not only will that help in your future lives, but those around you will react better and will want to follow you and choose you to be their role model as well.
That is just on Larin Double. That Jibba Chungulan, Dingalan, Jibba Chimbilan, so Jibba Chungulan, the La Magaju, Sutin the Chandro, Tella then Dendroya. Then the Labas of Jibba Dingalan, Tella then a Tabandoya. Then the Shaju sent on Shindu Dan, Shindu Lasu, Jibba Chimbilan, Tella then the Saji Visu. What is that?
Welcome, everyone, to the Chenrezig Tibetan Buddhist Center. Today we are looking again at Master Nagarjuna's text called The Precious Garland, the Umarinchen Chenwa. And when we look at what the contents of that text are, we'll see that they're the same contents that we find in the Lamrim, especially when we speak of the Lamrim, the great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment by Lama Tsongkhapa, which we just went over as a group. So this summarized material is laid out in as far as subject matter precisely the way that it's laid out in the Lamrim. So we find not the category names, but the material and the order of material to be the same. So we see that first we have the high status explanation, which shows how one can have rebirth in the higher realms of cyclic existence. So the first chapter is called High Status and Definite Goodness, or Certain Goodness. So high status is the higher realm rebirth that we find in the small scope, and then certain goodness or definite goodness is referring to liberation. And then when we look at the word liberation, we can categorically see it falls into two: the liberation of one who has just removed the afflictive obstructions, and that's the individual liberation, and then the liberation of someone who has not only removed the afflictive obstructions, but also the obstructions to omniscience, and that's called Buddhahood. That's the type of liberation that is Buddhahood. The other is sometimes referred to as nirvana, but Buddhahood is also a nirvana as well. So you just have to know categorically what precisely they're speaking of when we hear the word certain goodness or definite goodness. The highest form is obviously Buddhahood, but liberation does categorically fall under definite goodness. So what are those categories? We see the categories in the Lamrim called the teachings shared in common with, the teachings for beings of three capacities, the small and medium capacities being shared in common with the great capacity. So the first category of teachings are the teachings shared in common with beings of small capacity. And these teachings show a practitioner how to achieve rebirth in the higher realms of cyclic existence, how to achieve high status according to the precious garland that we're studying now. So that high status, that's a goal in the precious garland, is what we're speaking of goal-wise in the teaching shared in common with beings of small capacity. So the Buddha stated that by going for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and engaging in ethical behavior that abandons the 10 non-virtuous activities, and then acknowledging any wavering that one has done related to those non-virtuous activities and their abandonment. And by doing so, the Buddha stated one would have higher realm rebirth. And these are the teachings shared in common with beings of small capacity. The next category of teachings are teachings that are shared in common with beings of medium capacity, and these show a practitioner how to achieve that first category of definite goodness or certain goodness. So high status is achieved through the small scope, and then definite goodness, certain goodness, the first level of it, liberation or an individual nirvana, is achieved by the following. The Buddha stated by engaging in the three highest higher trainings, the highest higher training in ethics, concentration, and wisdom, one would be able to remove those afflictive obstructions that bind one to cyclic existence proper, and then by removing those things which bind one to cyclic existence, that would allow the practitioner to be in a state of nirvana. It's a state where the practitioner is solely there for his or her own achievement. So the goal of that medium scope practitioner is merely to remove the ingredients for cyclic existence for themselves alone. And they do so by those three highest higher trainings. So that's the first category. So that's in the Lamrim. When we look at the Precious Garland, that second category of definite goodness or certain goodness is being talked about at a beginner's level in the medium scope. So the medium scope deals with what the beginning category of definite goodness is referring to. The final category of the Lamrim is called the teachings for beings of great capacity. So these are practices that allow one to achieve complete Buddhahood. So Buddhahood is not only a state where the afflictive obstructions have been removed, but the obstructions to omniscience, which are the imprints of those afflictive obstructions, are removed. And that is what allows the practitioner to become a Buddha and to be in a state of omniscience. So the Buddha stated by practicing the small and medium scope and then coupling it with bodhicitta, the realization of the mind that aspires to enlightenment, and it actually becomes a mind. When we say the mind that aspires to enlightenment, it's a mind. It's an actual mind. Bodhi means Buddha. Chitta means mind. So it's an actual mind. So what does that mean? It means that it's saturated with this idea to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. So there is not any activity that is done for any other purpose. So that's why it's called a mind, because it's saturated to the point where the only purpose everything is done for that purpose of achieving Buddhahood. So by achieving that mind and then engaging in the six perfections, the Buddha stated you would be able to achieve Buddhahood. And when we look at definite goodness in the Precious Garland, because this is a Mahayana text, that's really what it's referring to in this case. Because it's a Mahayana text, Mahayanas talk about how to become Buddhas. So the goal of a Mahayanist is to be a Buddha, but the entrance into the Mahayana is bodhicitta. So it's funny, there's a big debate. Are you a Mahayanist or are you practicing the Mahayana? Because you're not a Mahayanist unless you have bodhicitta, because the entrance to Mahayana is bodhicitta. So if you're not a bodhisattva, according to that logic, you are not a Mahayanist. But you could be a Mahayana practitioner. So that's where a big debate takes place in the monastery. Are you a Mahayanist? And what is a bodhisattva? And what makes one a bodhisattva? They're terms that are thrown around very loosely, but when you get into the monastery, they have very specific meanings. So that's how the Lamrim relates at its gross level to the Precious Garland, because the points that are made are the same points. They just aren't labeled as the same thing necessarily, but the goals are the same, and the main intent of the book is to show one how to become a Buddha. So even though the Lamrim has a focus on each of those categories, this brazes through them as a means to that great category, because it's a Mahayana text. So it's a text which shows that the inclusion of those preliminary topics is absolutely necessary, as the Lamrim states, because there's a big debate. Do you need those introductory topics of renunciation and so forth if you're just going to skip to the Mahayana? And this text shows, which is a Mahayana text, that those foundational practices are as necessary as the Lamrim states. So that's how you can see how the texts relate to each other, and you can use each text to work with the other. Diksum Rinpoche.
Yeah. Tajida Jushin Yalata Maluji de Shina Shishina Jiamata Jibuyan Kanji Shina Tazandra Tak Nasagan de Yudu Nasagan de Yudu Nada Kabar Zesuna Nya Yumaris Puna banana tree then tadun sen nyega mares tenda bores cheta chushin yola ta chushin yola chushin se banana tree in
Less so.
malu che chinana banana tree tadun sen manya batar kanza tadun sen nyega mares
Less so.
so
Less so.
Jiang me de jibu yang kang ji xi na de dang zha chu na tang ji da me ji de shi yao na shi song chu na da me wa de sang ji na me song yo res
Less so.
song kang zhu de gun da me ba kang zhu sa chu me long su kang zhu de
Less
da
so.
me ba res da me ba chu la ten na chola tenla phoba yin tata da tong da me pa yang da chi jin mi su me da tong da me tawa ta te shir tuba chen be
Rinpoche.
do chu na tang ji da me ma la che ta chu jin banana tree da dong se na me ni ba tar na nga se da dong se nye ga ma re
Less so. Less so.
what is kanju
Less so.
kanju xin na tadang da kanju tadang zin na menya ba tadang da kore
Less so. Less so.
chunang tangji da me je
Less so.
shi jawa na ji song da me ba song yo res
Less so.
kanju de kui da me ba chue la ten la po ba yin tata da dang da me ba yang da je jin mi su me da dang da me tawa ta te shi tuba chen bi do da dang da me tawa ta da dang da me tawa ta te shi tuba chen bi do ba song da me ba den ba zhu ba da yo ba den ba zhu ba ga yo ma ri song den sa de te shi tuba chen bi do tong tang tu su tuba yi den mi jun ba me ba song den ba zhu ba re yo ma re song shu le me tun shu ju na den ne ni dun du mi te tar tang bi dun ne ji den de na den jun de den ba du jun ba kan yo ma re den ba zhu bi te ti shi na yang da to yue ji me ji xie me ji kan ji te tar na gun to yue me ten ne kun xian ji ta me nye ga dang nye ga ma yin che ta ten san ji zhang me xie te jin jun ju ro wa dang ta yu ne bi san ji ma bu san ji sen jian na ne xie wan ju ro te le tu song ne ba gong se ba tu song ne ba ne ji den pi yu ju ma yin se ba xi ba le xi ba so tu su yin sa de
Okay, that's cool.
tu song ne ba ne ji den pi yu ju ma yin ji den pi ya ju yin se ju ma res tang ji chen bi che tar di ma ta lo ma ten ba song ma ji ta gama ga lo ma ten song na ne
Less
lo
so.
ma ten song wa res gama ga kan ro ma zhu ba lo ma ten chen ni wa de le din sa su su ju da la sang wa kan yin ten ne sa mi chu ji den ju ma ta bu ni sang ji ten ba du zi yin
They dig so.
ja Saba Duzi,
Then Injike.
Jeta
Jita
Juma
Juma. Okay.
Jetan Jiba, Jetan Hong.
That's up.
Tela Dunji, Anado, Jetan Neba, Yeme, that never drew my ears, something said.
Okay. All right. So we're going to begin on stanza 101 in Nagarjuna's Precious Garland. Just as when a banana tree with all its parts is torn apart, there is nothing, so when a person having the 6 constituents is divided, it is the same. So when we look at the I, the person, and we ask, is it inherently existent or not? And we start to investigate the parts that make the I, make up for the basis of the I. And we start to remove them and take them apart. And we find that once those are all separated, that we no longer find an I or a person that we can establish. So it's saying, just like when you take a banana tree and all of its parts are taken apart and placed, you no longer have that banana tree. You no longer have a basis of designation for a banana tree. Likewise, when you remove the earth, water, wind, fire, space, and the consciousness, if you separate all of those things, because that's what the 6 constituents are referring to, when you separate all of those things, you no longer have a basis of designation. So it's stating that there isn't an inherently existent I that can be found separate from its collection, but we can't say that the I is any one of those things that are parts of its collection. It's merely designated once that whole collection's there and serve as a proper basis to be called person. But once you separate those things, you no longer can find person. But there is a person that's there. So that's the line that they begin to clarify, that when, even though you're stating that the person isn't inherently existent, that in no way negates its existence, its conventional existence. So that's what we'll begin to get into. Therefore, the conqueror said, all phenomena are selfless. Since this is so, all 6 constituents have been delineated as selfless for you. So it's saying that even the earth, water, wind, fire, and space and consciousness are collections that come together that are just then basis to designate the basis. They become bases to designate names on. So you have a basis then that is appropriate to name earth, and a basis of an element that has a collection of things come together and then are appropriate to be called water, etc., etc., etc. So it's saying that even the constituents themselves, when we look at them singularly, aren't found to have any inherent existence because they're merely collections as well. Thus, neither self nor non-self are to be apprehended as real. So the point that this is making is that we're not saying that the self doesn't exist, because there's clearly a person sitting there. So in the case of myself, we'll use the example, it's just easier. There's clearly a person sitting here speaking, interacting with a group of other people that are clearly sitting here listening. So the Buddhism isn't negating that existence. So Buddhism isn't saying that there is a non-self. Buddhism. So what that means, that non-self part, that means Buddhism isn't nihilism. Buddhism doesn't say that the self doesn't exist, because there's clearly a self sitting here. There's a Jeff sitting here talking. So the Buddhism doesn't say that the self doesn't exist. But Buddhism also doesn't say that the self inherently exists in some way that other traditions assert, where you have this idea of the Jeff has a soul that is permanent, that will always be Jeff, and you know, even in the afterlife, etc. So this idea that the self doesn't exist isn't a Buddhist principle, but the idea that the self inherently exists also is not a Buddhist principle. So the mode of existence is what we're talking about. The mode that that thing exists in, how it exists, is what we don't agree with as Buddhists, with the common world. We don't agree that things exists as they stand from their side, as the eye consciousness apprehends them without any thought into them. So the next step is seeing how they abide. How is this book abiding? It's abiding as a collection. So that's the point of all this. There is a book here. There's not an inherently existent book here, and there isn't not a book here. So that's basically what it's saying. Why is there a book here? Because you can read it, and everyone would agree it's this stuff is suitable to be called book. Why isn't it an inherently existent book? Because it has a collection of parts, right up to even the makers and the person who cut a tree at some point. So there isn't something that sits here without that collection of parts and also activities that came together in order for it to be here. So it's really looking at the mode of existence as opposed to its existence. So that's what this self nor non-self. Self is inherent existence is what we're negating, and non-self is nihilism. So when you see those points that are made, they're subtly referring to that always. So thus, neither self nor non-self are to be apprehended as real. Therefore, the great subduer rejected views of self and non-self. Sights, sounds, and so forth were said by the subduer not to be true and not to be false. If from one position its opposite arises, both do not exist in fact. Thus, ultimately, this world is beyond truth and falsity. Therefore, the subduer does not assert that it really exists or does not exist. So we get to that point. If nothing exists, then nothing's existence isn't existent. So you start to run into those troubles. If you say that there is nothing exists, if everything doesn't exist, then that is how it exists. So it begins to be, you have to, if there is non-existent, then there has to be existent. So then what are you comparing it to, is what it's saying. If you're saying everything doesn't exist, then compared to what? There is something that does. So that's the debate that takes place within that, subtly. Sights, sounds, and so forth. Thus, ultimately, this world is beyond truth and falsity. Therefore, the subduer does not assert that it really exists or does not. Knowing that these in all ways do not exist, how can the all-knower say they have limits or no limits, or have both or neither? Innumerable Buddhas have come, and likewise will come and are here at present. There are zillions of sentient beings, and in addition, the Buddhas intend to abide in the three times. So that's referring to the past, the present, and the future. The extinguishing of the world in the three times does not cause it to increase. Then why was the all-knower silent about the world, the limits of the world? That which is secret for a common being is the profound doctrine. The world is like an illusion, the ambrosia of Buddha's teaching. Just as the production and disintegration of an illusory elephant are seen, but the production and disintegration do not really exist. Let me see. I think that's where we read to. Just give me one moment. Yep. Oh, so production and disintegration of the illusion-like world are seen, but the production and disintegration do not ultimately exist. Just as an illusory elephant, being only a bewildering of consciousness, does not come from anywhere, nor go anywhere, nor really stay. So that's talking about magic. When a magician creates some sort of an illusion and makes an elephant appear that didn't exist, or whatever. They use the magician illusions work a lot in these texts. So they're saying that there were causes and effects that led up to this illusion to take place. And phenomena is similar in that it has an illusion that it is truly existent. It's going beyond what we're saying about the elephant. So the elephant's not really there in that case. But Nagarjuna and others use it as a comparison to how unreal the true self is also. That we conjure up this true identity that something has, when it is no more true than that true identity that we create in our minds is no more true than the illusory elephant. So the identity is not existent, but the thing is existent. So that's the middle way point. That's where it says that it's between the two. The ambrosia of the hold on. Anyway, I'll get back to it. I'm sure I'll remember the point. That which is secret for a common being is the profound doctrine. The world is like an illusion, the ambrosia of the Buddhist teaching. Somewhere it says the limits. It's talking about the limits. Knowing all that exists, do not exist. It's just the point that the profound view is between this idea of substantialism and nihilism. That there is this substantial existence sitting there, substantially existent thing sitting there, or that there is nothing there. The middle way philosophy rides between those two. It's seeing that, yeah, it'll come up again, so it's fine. Okay, Khensur Rinpoche, the ngatsu jadan juni sampa lepsa. Juni.
Juni riba.
Nge sampa.
Jeta juma jata.
Jeta juma.
Jeta jumi lampu ne. Ne kana maung karamando. Semu tanto sebena. Yangda nyi tu nepa me. Tijin jiten junrawa kana maung kamandro semu santo sebena yangda nyi tu nepa me deba chuwayo mara sonde. Tetara tu son de dani tanya daba matuba kanji yue dang menjuyu yiden dan jishiyus yobat meba ganga deba chuwayo mara es. Sanji chene jundele yobat tam tame dang nida nime nabaji Lama Tenzin neje means turukanga Lama Tenzin something.
Less authenticity, I remember that.
Reji lönde mazani rashin ngosung shuyuwa dadu nangwa kanki tse senla neba mayinba tese tangchun nemeba charo ngosu mayinba samutagu chetabu senla dela jobanjoro
Chukabiyare.
chunde sashi chu
Chukabiyare. It's something de Loma so.
ya
De logo.
Sanji nachi jundele yoba
15.
yoba batang tameba yida nyime yoba niga mayimba
Less out.
tesukanga Lama ten ires
Less out.
Lama ten de lejemi reji lönde matani rashi ngosung shuyuwa dadu nangwa kanki tse senla neba mayimba tese tangchu nemeba charo ngosung mayimba samu teko chetabo senla dela jubanjoro chunde sashe chivoyi sheba kawa tu chute nongba niri she kabares te she nunasa dinzare kawa tu ju de toba sanje ne chuden bale doban jorus chuden de sanje ne chuko mago ni jabakaji shoro o de chude sama yinsa jenda ke shegmare gongo yores o de son de
Chu de Samo. Okay. Okay, that's good. Yeah, the Inji Lo. Just as an illusory elephant being only a bewildering of consciousness does not come from anywhere, nor go anywhere, nor really stay, so the illusion-like world, being only a bewildering of consciousness, does not come from anywhere, nor go anywhere, nor really stay. Thus it has a nature beyond the three times, other than as the imputation of a convention. What world is there, in fact, which would exist or not? So it's saying that when you look at the world itself, and you see that the world is just also a collection that becomes a basis for the name world. What world is there other than that? So that's the point that's being made, which would exist or not exist. So you can't even find something to say, then what would this be like when you separate that process? You don't have world left. When you don't have that collection that comes together that serves as a basis of designation, you no longer have that world. So it's saying, what world is there, in fact, which would exist or not? So what are we even discussing? So we say that the world that exists inherently doesn't exist. That's a non-existent. That's what we're saying is a non-existent. A world that exists inherently, not the world itself, just an inherently existent world. For this reason, the Buddha, except for keeping silence, said nothing about the fourfold format, having either, not having a limit, both, or neither. So that gets into some of the negations of like the Samkhya schools that believed that there was a true self, like Jeff would go to Jeff's next life, like an Atman, a true self that is this life's person. Or that there was nothing next, that the nihilists would feel that there was a limit to this life, that it was all causeless. So there was nothing that went to the next life. There was no carryover. So that negates that. So there are various things that get negated, and then the idea that there's a true self in any format. That even the Buddhist schools hold to. So there's a footnote I haven't gone through, but it's going to say something like that. It should, the Jains and so forth. So you can look at the footnote in there and see. When the body, which is unclean, coarse, and an object of senses, does not stay in the mind, as having a nature of uncleanliness and pain, although it is continually in view, then how could this doctrine, which is most subtle, profound, baseless, and not manifest, easily appear to the mind, realizing that, because of its profundity, this doctrine is difficult for beings to understand? The subduer, having become enlightened, at first turned away from teaching the doctrine. So recognizing that not all beings would be able to understand this doctrine. The Buddha initially turned away from teaching it, but then taught it to scope. So that's why you find so many different levels of teaching about selflessness that the Buddha gave in the sutras, because every being that the Buddha taught to wasn't necessarily ready to make that jump. So there was a gradual way that Buddha showed through tenet systems, basically, that one could become comfortable with the complete non-existence of inherent existence, basically. Digsung Rinpoche. Okay, yeah, that's the Cheran the Chudila Par She Ju Chu then
Chunde loba sheju na. Chunde loba sheju na deba maruba. Jumba sheju na. Mekiba ne chu chang sa.
15, 16, 17.
Dada meba tawa yi. Mazang dene 신원주로 먼저는 신원주로스 나 솔로 만들고 있었더만요.
Chita.
이제 안 되네. 로존나 너무 개빙 아저씨 보아유 마론 다니제 나만 반주도 다치는 로바타 손나 나만 저를 손대서 제대로 가지 사녀베 포와 다도 조하다 살레 차다 내매다 칼라사도 야버이나 서령와다 내마바 용그래 또도 또도 내마다 안 대화 용그래 대화 조 따르 대신 로바 존에 포와 다네 돈조신 레바셰베 도와다 샤출라나 매버토 사제 공도 그래서 돈이 도서나 대체 달라 보바다 봉와다 매버다와 봉네네 최근 조셔를 양답이 신라네데 촌주지 내가 말을 받으러때 서서 나와서 손대서 최대 용수 마시나 나제반에 제순주스 최나 내가 주바 마시나 안나 최나 내가 주바 되는 거라 제순주 텔레가다 먹을래 텔레 저와 자당에 게일레라든 데버 내가 용거래 게일레라든 데버 zam바 용거라 어디서 손대서 제시 제시 나제바 세위 추운데 마셔봐 제시 제다 추진다
Ale.
저비 출라 거반주스
Ale. Then gewa the tomani mashina. Then gewa sana the korwa ju.
코알코는
Ale. The gewa korwa zudu.
야
Ale. Korwa dewa.
야야
The donda.
어때서래
Yabudu. This becha de shera sabudu rinpoche. Then inji the chu detzilarona. Delpa irbe.
지시 간제바 세 추운데 마셔봐 지시 진다 간제비 간제라서부터 마셔나 근데 제마다 추진다 저바도 신주ኛ래 제바이나 나래 모두 추당 당신 봐도 추네 타마야 추네 루비 사다게 너다제도 너면조로스 신주ኛ래 아버지가 천도도 세말 너가 배그르만 너가 말했어 추진던다 추진던다 너와나 너다 제가 예바메스 추야바 제바이나 천도도 시간에 신앙 연구 말했어 제대제도 대화지 서로 심만나서 대화 연구를 대위 따도 최den주스 너 거와디 아버주고 거와주 아버주고 서로만 볼래 아버 연구를
Lesso.
최는 로지 담바데 최진지된 너가주로 최거와라 되네 제den술 가버 연구를 대화 연구를 제된 가와 주배장 너던 제도 그러면주 제된 너 가보셔나 너던 샤말 로고 말했어 취미베네 로드강 대제된 마간주로스 취마이베 도체나는 제된 가보용 말했어
Ale. Self-sure.
제된 마가 니지셔 너다 제도 가만줄 이제 먹어봐야 줘서 서로 천대다 셔마를 가보용 말
Lesso.
되면 리바 Nandu la Lo Sulan Mezeba Shiro Cheba Naji Ne Chetan Dudun Zibashe Paru Loa Lulanba Tanto Cheta Ludemi Ten Tsiro Tonsaki Mabo Dani Lubanjurus Magawa Shenan Tsiro Tonsa Mabo Dungan.
Less so. The Ninge Injike, Desko.
Yeah.
What's 132 is where I'm going to stop. Can someone just tell me where I read to? I'm sorry. 117. Thank you. Then how could this doctrine, which is most subtle, profound, baseless, and not manifest, easily appear to the mind, realizing that because of its profundity, this doctrine is difficult for beings to understand? The subduer, having become enlightened, at first turned away from teaching the doctrine. This doctrine, wrongly understood, causes the unwise to be ruined because they sink into the uncleanliness of nihilistic views. So if you misinterpret the idea that things aren't inherently existent and feel that the Buddha is teaching that things don't exist, then that causes you to come to the conclusion karma doesn't exist, virtue doesn't exist, how I behave doesn't matter. There is no link to what I do now into future lives. And a wrong understanding of emptiness has led many practitioners to that misunderstanding. And you find that in the some of the higher teachings, there's even an easier or even a more danger of falling into the nihilistic view. When you start to study Dzogchen or Mahamudra before you're qualified to understand those subtle points, those can very easily lead to a misunderstanding or an ignorance. So it's very important that whenever you approach anything that is about the nature of reality, that you have a qualified source and learn it from the ground up as opposed to jumping right to the most difficult part. Because here you see the warnings that are given here, that this can destroy you for many lifetimes if you get this part wrong. So that's why it's so important to get this part right. When the body, this is, where am I? Here we go. Further, the stupid who fancy themselves wise, having a nature ruined by rejecting emptiness, go headfirst to a terrible hell due to their wrong understanding. So this grasping at things as being truly existent or as being non-existent altogether causes one's actions to not align with virtue, which then causes not... The ignorance itself is non-virtue, and it's then leads one to behaviors that are just more of the same, non-virtue. So that's why it's saying, due to wrong understanding, they are born into hell. Just as one comes to ruin through wrong eating, but obtains long life, freedom from disease, strength, and pleasures through right eating. So it's as simple as understanding that by remaining healthy and having a good diet, chances are more likely that your life you won't get as many diseases and you'll have a longer life than if you eat poison, basically is what it's saying. So it's saying similar. If you engage in right view and virtue, then you'll have good benefits, just like as if you took care of your body, your health would benefit. Just giving an example. So one comes to ruin through wrong understanding, but obtains bliss and highest enlightenment through right understanding. Therefore, having forsaken with respect to this nihilistic views and rejection, be supremely intent on correct understanding for the sake of achieving all aims. If this doctrine is not understood thoroughly, the conception of an I prevails. Hence comes virtuous and non-virtuous actions which rise to good and bad rebirths. The point that's being made here is even if you're engaging in the utmost virtue, if you're doing so without the correct view, you're only creating more happiness in cyclic existence. So as a translator's note, that goal of the small scope is debated whether that's really even a Buddhist goal. And then the scholars say because it's directed at future life and directed at the goal of liberation, that it is Buddhist teaching. But Buddhist teaching is really primarily to get out of cyclic existence. The first thing the Buddha taught, this is the truth of suffering, this is the truth of origin, this is the truth of cessation, this is the truth of path. So sometimes folks will explain the small scope within the boundaries of the Four Noble Truths, but you have to say, well, it's not really cessation. Cessation of the lower realms isn't cessation. But for a small scope practitioner, that's what they're looking to cease. So that's how you can relate the Four Truths to the small scope. But Buddha's intent was never to get someone a rebirth again in cyclic existence. The intent of Buddhism was always to get out of cyclic existence. So you see here the point made that if you don't have correct view, then all the virtue you're creating is just going to lead to more samsara, more cyclic existence. It'll just be happy states in cyclic existence. So that's the point that's being made here, which give rise to good and bad rebirths. So it's saying your actions, if they aren't influenced by correct understanding, just become more cause for samsara, but good samsara, good rebirth. So that's what it's saying here. And we're in one now, by the way, folks. We're in one of those good rebirths. So I don't know if everybody wants to stick around here. I'm not really into it. But that's just my aside for the day. If this has a mix of things that I just definitely don't like, the sufferings that have to endure and the losses that we have to endure and the diseases and so forth. That's not, if I could have all of that removed forever, that seems like a lot better idea. And that seems more of a spiritual goal to me than what I find to be happiness in this lifetime. So, yeah. And it's funny how some things that we find bring us happiness, when we have other types of happiness or purer types of happiness, we see that even that happiness is so empty because it was like not comparatively, not even happiness. If I look back on times in my life that I thought were happy and then compare them to times, it's interesting how even in the state of happiness, it's not happy. And that's why it's called, if you're still in cyclic existence and you're having happiness, it's not even called happiness. It's called the suffering of change. Happiness, cyclic existence happiness is called the suffering of change. It's not called happiness. Because it will eventually be a cause for suffering, because it will change into something that is, whether something better comes along and it's no longer so happy, or it turns into something that it becomes a great source of pain. If something you want, that you have, that you love more than anything in the world gets stolen, you can see how something that brought such happiness can bring such pain. And that's why we say that happiness in cyclic existence is loaded with the self-destruct within it. So all the happiness that we can find has a self-destruct mechanism. Even the purest happiness of a mother and a child or something like that. If you could find the purest one, someone in that relationship is going to die first. And that's going to become a source of sadness. Therefore, as long as the doctrine removing the conception of I is not known, take heed of the practices of giving, ethics, and patience. So it's saying that, but wait, if you don't know, but still engage in virtue, because you'd rather have the good life than the bad life. And so it's saying, obviously, that if you have to choose one or the other, but you don't have to choose one or the other because there's wisdom. A lord of the earth who performs actions with their prior intermediary and final practices not harmed here or in the future. Through the practices there are fame and happiness here, there is no fear now or at the point of death. In the next life, happiness flourishes. Therefore, always observe the practices, no matter what. The practices are the best policy. It is through them that the world is pleased. Neither here nor in the future is one cheated by a world that has been pleased. So it's saying that happiness is happiness. So, you're not going to, if you have a choice of unhappiness or happiness, you're never going to choose the other. So you're always going to want to have had engaged in the cause for happiness, no matter what kind of happiness it is. The world is displeased by the policies of non-practice. Due to the displeasure of the world, one is not pleased here or in the future. So not only when you engage in non-virtue does the rest of the world think that you're not a good person, but then by engaging in that, you end up not pleased in your next life. So not only in this world are ones not pleased with you, then you're not going to be pleased in the future either. So it's saying you're displeased now because people aren't pleased with you, and in the future you're going to be displeased. So you're having 3 negative reactions out of one behavior. The world is displeased by the policies of non-practice. Due to the displeasure of the world, one is not pleased here or in the future. How could those with senseless, deviant minds on a path to bad transmigrations, wretched, intent on deceiving others, have understood what is meaningful? How could those intent on deceiving others be persons of policy? Through it, they themselves will be cheated in many thousands of births. So cause and effect results are concordant with their causes. So if you cheat someone, you will have a result of being cheated. So that's what it's basically saying. And it's saying, like, not just once, but in thousands of lifetimes. So go ahead. What do you think makes more sense? So that's what it's saying here. Do you want to be happy in thousands of lifetimes, or do you want to be unhappy? Do you want to have a lifetime or not have to have a lifetime? Because it's in your hands. There's no one else who can do anything for you. You are in complete control of that. Even if you seek to harm an enemy, you should remove your own defects, and cultivate good qualities. Through that, you will help yourself, and the enemy will be displeased. So it's saying, like, really, if you want to harm your enemy, do good. You know, that's what really makes them displeased. So it's saying the irony behind that actually acting out of virtue is what would really harm an enemy, because they don't want to see you doing well. It's kind of a strange thing for Nagarjuna to put in there, in my opinion. Rinpoche, dene ngatsu ja dan sunju sunsun.
Ja,
Ja dan sunju.
Tongo shaga. Otandu.
Dene toga. Jindan nyampar mawadan.
Jindan nyeba mawadan.
Sorry, nyeba.
Nyeba mawa. Tuandan, tuandan, tuanji shueba de. Tada naji jiden dan. Chujan deba nyedundu. Chujan deba nyedundu.
Gyelpo da.
Gyelpo da la, chetabo. Denzi yeche, denjeba. Tejin dala dunba ne. Yeme cheba, sheba chebe chu. Loa meden. Dema de sambe joa tonto me yala chitu pemba den me penshana chishu dun ma deba lan dun re cheta jabo nyaba da jinse chiki piwa tar tishin joba Tadaki, Yudan Doba Tanjin Jum, Nyawa Sheva, Sabishir, Nyawa Sheva Tatumba Yinti Saburis, Chudu Kube, Sheba Juro, Chudu no Kubajin, the Sheba Jures, Kubajina, Kayan Ten, Teyu Nyawa Sheva Ten.
Chishina did tearing the dison Rinpoche, tearing atsu zundu yure. Atsu zundu so tearing. Then atsu the ngede lo the ne trua dan lenja. Chikshina yabudu. Okay. You should cause the assembling of the religious and the worldly through giving and speaking pleasantly, purposeful behavior, and concordant behavior. Just as by themselves the true words of kings generate firm trust, so their false words are the best means to create distrust. What is not deceitful is the truth. It is not an intentional fabrication. What is solely helpful to others is the truth. The opposite is falsehood, since it does not help. Just as a single splendid charity conceals the faults of kings, so avarice destroys all their wealth. In peace there is profundity. From profundity the highest respect arises. From respect comes influence and command. Therefore observe peace. So Rinpoche said that here peace is referring to the understanding of emptiness. So once you understand the nature of reality, then it takes the pressure off certain things. So it's saying, it calls that peace, because then all of the things that seem so commanding have less power, or have less just predominance, because they don't have that substantial existence that one would normally cling to. So it says, in peace there is profundity. From profundity the highest aspect arises. From respect, the highest respect arises. From respect comes influence and command. Therefore observe peace. So others, when you have this correct understanding, see you as someone who is a guide, or like a role model, if you will. So it's saying that even when a king does some small charity, they look really good. But if they do some small bad thing, it can ruin them as well. So it's showing how behavior can then reflect their experience, or something like that. Behavior then kind of gives way to their experience and how those others relate. So it's saying, it's running up to it by saying, O king, those who in the world operate virtuously, have others engage them well in this life, and look up to them in this life, and listen to them in this life, and then as a result of that virtue, that person will in their future life be listened to and respected, etc. So and then it leads up to, but ultimately the understanding of the nature of reality is what makes you the best role model, because then you're able to accurately make decisions about everything in the kingdom with peace, peace is with the understanding of the nature of reality. So all of the decisions you have to make for the kingdom can be made with peace, basically. Okay, questions, anyone? Today we have the meeting, I think, right? Is that true?
We're supposed to, but Ted's not here.
Oh, Ted's not here? So no, we
And no, I didn't get it. We're supposed
okay, well, whatever. Live life. We're just going to live life. We have questions right now. We may not even be alive by the end of class, so let's just get there. Somebody somewhere died in a Buddhist class. I know it. Actually, I do know of it happening. It's a fact, actually. So, could be you today. Good luck.
That's a good segue into my question. I am wondering about the difference between reincarnation and rebirth, because I know that those words are,
yeah,
reincarnation.
it's English stuff that we're...
Okay.
It depends on who's saying it and using it. The Tibetan, you never know what word they're using it for what. So you can have reincarnation. Everyone reincarnates. So let's start. Rinpoche, the Yansik dang jewa shema chipa. Injike. Chipa. Oh, so it's the same. So it really, reincarnation, reincarnate means like all beings reincarnate. It means that, but a lot of times they use this reincarnation in Tibetan to refer to the incarnation of a specific master again. So when they say it's his reincarnation, it's just saying that it's that being's in that rebirth. But the Tibetan word isn't as easy to say. It just means rebirth. What we're using as reincarnation means rebirth, and they always attach the master to it. This is such and such reincarnation, rebirth. So it really does, it depends on what they're talking about, the person that you're hearing that word from. But in Tibetan, it usually just means rebirth. It's just having a rebirth. Everyone's consciousness is reincarnated. We have the consciousness has another birth of some sort, another experience. It happens again.
So then that leads me to, if we're talking about everyone's consciousness, how is that not a soul?
Right. Because it's not identified as one singular person. The person that normally other traditions would say is soul disintegrates at death, according to Buddhism. So you could say that that's continuum if you could relate to it like soul, but it's not. When you define what soul is according to traditions that assert soul is an Atman in the Hindu tradition. That's a continued. Jeff is Jeff straight through, whereas Jeff is just a karmic collection right now according to Buddhism, and then it'll be whatever I get next. Let's hope, whatever's good, whatever I can get.
Thank you.
Got my fingers crossed for a good one. But yeah, so that's all. The Rinpoche kongi triwa de sheba dang the da gar shene kaka yomare gangyen sena the sheba the shilopa yishu dang Hindu Atman yure Atman the demba drupi da the ne kongi triwa dembi drup the yishu kelen dembi drupi da, it means soul jewa shema jeff yure heaven degdu dakpar jeff yure jewa ngama diomare jewa de then jewa shema yure yine jeff jewa shema drogare jeff the pumbo yomare jeff the sheba nangla jeff yure and jeff drogdu the yishu kelen dene nampi chu kelen dang yishu chu kelen chapagare gangin sena ngatsu sheba ngatsu susur sheba nga sheba kon sheba kakare dene gar shene yishu dawa dang ngatsu dawa kakare kongichiwa gangin sena ngatsu sheba da dan drar sampa the dembi drupi da dan drapu du sampa gangin sena ngatsu kelen jewa shema ngatsu sheba susur sheba me jenda sheba yomare dene jewa tuma mepa then jewa shema sheba chipa then kongi chiwa the yishu kelen jeff chipa jewa shema jeff chipa then chapagare
jeba shema dosa the jeba shema le lo ma
lessa
then drabajin do
nge de kelen so nge len ja so nge de sedu de ngatsu shena de pumbo the pumbo dan sachu melon jingdu then they jeff sar then jewa sheba dro yine jeff drogo mare gangin sena jeff the mingi da pumbo mingi da then pumbo tsar the mingi da danyo mare the danyo mena jeff me
ngad do
nga dro
ha se pa song la chabi ngad jewa shema do ngamani
yine nga dan jeff gelwa chapa gare nga dan jeff
ngad jeba gewa marota
muson
jeba ina ngai mi cha ngai ina jeba ma cha muson de mo
then jewa shema jeff yure nga yubeche
shaba ma jurata
jewa shema jeff yu sheba yubeche
sheba ina jeba yu cha maro jeba drabajin do ta
nga yu no jeff jewa shema jeff yu the nga yubiche
jewa shema jeba yu ma jeba renda yu renda jeba dan drabaji kansa ji shema do
yine jeff pakcha jewa shema drodo
pacha do
we're just playing so yes, that's basically it, that the jeff that is nominally designated on the aggregates ceases to exist in the form of Jeff at that point of when it dies. The consciousness, but imprints that Jeff created carry forth. So I was just debating him, and he was saying, well, that that Jeff and I, if there is Jeff, there's I, or something like that. But if there's I, there's not Jeff. And I was saying, well, in the future life, there's I, so there's Jeff. But it's not. It shows it when you have 3 permutations. Right there, you see why the debate. How many possibilities are there between Jeff and I? Are there 3, 4? Are they mutually exclusive, or are they synonymous? So I initially thought that they'd be mutually exclusive, because you always say that the I carries forward. But Jeff is an I, but isn't I. So it's 3 permutations, because if you have Jeff, you have I. But if you have I, you don't necessarily have Jeff. Show the intermediate state I that Jeff isn't. Why isn't Jeff? Because the aggregates that Jeff was named on top are no longer existent. So anyway, that's why they use that. 3 permutations, 4 the Musa Mushi Gyawa Dunchi Shera Ke Chempodu. Kangin Sena this Salo Dana Jeff Danga Chapagare Musa Mushi Gyawa Dunchi. Then it's Salo Dan. Then Tambo Nge Gyawa Chi Shena. Then it's Salo Dan. The Jeff Nga Yin Yin Nga Jeff Yimbi Macha Show Bardo the Nga Chuchen. Jeff Mayin Day. Jeff Pumbo Kanga Shison. Maybe in between. Oh, and it's easier. You don't even have to say the aggregates and da aren't there. So Jeff's not in the intermediate state. You just say it's not a human. There's not a human. Period. Over. Why isn't Jeff there? There's not a human. You have to have human to have Jeff. If there's not human, there's not Jeff. There's not a human in the intermediate state. Jeff's not there. That's what he just did to me. I was saying, oh, it's really neat that you can compare these things because you can say this. He's like, no, say that. Much quicker. Yes. Chiran dasi dan kepa. Chiran lenja angi tambo. Me maybe che.
Yeah.
Me na Jeff maybe chop. Me na Jeff maybe chop. Okay,
so when we talk about the Buddha or a Buddha, is that also a conventional designation? Because there's no permanent Buddha. There's no thing that is a permanent Buddha.
No.
There's only this consciousness that has now achieved this level of clarity, however you want to use that word, that has existed from beginningless time.
Yep.
Okay.
That is having every experience, by the way, forced on them the same way we are.
Right. So
by
they're
their
still
karma.
going through all this experiential process, just not accumulating any negative karma.
Right. So they don't.
It's,
they're being forced into only good. They don't have any forcing into bad left. So yeah, they're not.
So
the Rinpoche, Kongichiwa, the Sanje, the Dundan Demba, Gunzun Demba, then in Kongi Sampa, the Sanje Gunzun Demba yen. Then they Sanje Le yure, Sanje Sheba then Konde dit Sanodan. Then Gunzun Demba yen. Then Sanje, the Pongo Mingda. Sanje Mingda.
Yes.
There'll be Dasan.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Kongichiwa.
So it's only really like Buddhahood. There's no Buddha. It's only the clarity of consciousness on that stream.
Yeah.
So that
Buddhahood is a state.
State, right? So there's no Buddha.
Well,
There's only a conventional designation, Buddha.
right.
Or a Buddha.
Just like
Correct?
there's no Jeff.
Right.
But that being will never not be Buddha, and that's the difference. Because there's no more ingredients to change that state.
No, but it is constantly changing. It's
It's
just
constantly-
not changing with negative karma.
Correct. But it will never become un-Buddha because there's nothing to make the Buddha not a Buddha.
It will never become non-Buddhahood, right? But not
Correct.
Buddha as a designation.
But what is Buddhahood? It's a person who Buddhahood is a state a being is
state
in.
of consciousness.
Right. So the way that it's the same thing though. If you have Buddhahood, you have Buddha.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was just trying to when I visualize Buddha, it's like there's no...
Yeah, no, it's great.
Conventional.
This is really definitely where you should be thinking because That's why Buddha's not this God,
right.
this inherently existent being either. The Buddha is being forced around by karma, just good stuff. And the Buddha doesn't have any ignorance karma and doesn't have anything to make ignorance anymore. So it's just a perpetual state of it just makes so much sense, you know, if you think about like removal of all the things that are the causes, and there's nothing that could slip back in because there's just nothing to make it happen ever again. So when they say cessation is permanent, Buddha's not permanent in that it's moment by moment. There's karma, there's consciousness. The Buddha, you know, a sentient being might ripen to the point where they've connected to a particular Buddha and then they emanate a body to go help them. They didn't choose to do that. Their karma forced them to do that. Their compassion that they meditated on the bodhisattva path, that became a mind, forced them to go help that sentient being. So it's not like the Buddha's up there with a little notepad. Today I think the Buddha has no choice but to help who the Buddha helps. No choice. No free will either.
Okay, I have to think about that one.
Yeah, that's a brain bender. That one blew my mind like 15 years ago or so. I almost became not a Buddhist after that one.
Question is, can practitioners achieve enlightenment with the 3 lower tantras?
Rinpoche, the nga je yure shaju shuju nejor and lejor lana mepi ju. Shaju shuju nejor ju shanchu tudwe.
Idahi,
Nejor lana mepi ju yimma go.
Gomars.
Nejor lana mepi ju the tama gugumarbe.
Tamagure.
So yes, dene the lenchagare Rinpoche tamagu dene the shaju shuju nejor ju shanchu yomare. Gangisena nejor lana mepi ju yingu. Tamagu la dene. Dene jauntro.
Taman
Jauntro.
Karsugure.
Sanjay ju.
Or Tama what the Google.
Nguju juju.
Ah?
Nguju juju.
Ngaju Juju Sana? Niga Yogro.
Okay. So the truth is that in the final stage, highest yoga tantra is necessary. Final. You cannot achieve complete Buddhahood without highest yoga tantra at the final stages. So Rinpoche initially said, can you achieve Buddhahood independence on the 3 lower tantras? And he said, yes. And I said, but you can't achieve Buddhahood at the final stage, without the highest yoga tantra, I thought. And he said, that's true. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, they do lead to Buddhahood, but independence. They're a very swift path to Buddhahood, and you would very swiftly get to that highest yoga tantra stage for that last moment and be able to just get through it. If you were a practitioner who was about to be enlightened through the 3 lower tantras. So just understand that. They get you to the place we're talking about getting to is like even unimaginable when we say they get you to there, but the final, in order to completely achieve Buddhahood, highest yoga tantra is necessary. That it would be the same answer. Can going for refuge, cause Buddhahood? Yes, but you also need to.
Thank you.
And practicing highest yoga tantra prematurely leads to hell. So let's make that clear too. It's a special hell called tantric hell. It's Vajra hell. So just as great as Tantra sounds, there's also a lot of danger because it swiftly brings you to bad places, just like it swiftly brings you to good places. So that's why I don't, yeah.
When the Dalai Lama started to give the Kali Chakra initiation way back when.
Yeah.
To thousands and thousands of people. I think he was criticized. Well, why are you doing this? People aren't ready. They pay admission ticket. They come in for several days and sit and come out and say, I'm almost enlightened.
Yeah.
And he was really criticized for this. And I can understand. I think when he did this, he wanted people to plant the seeds so it would come to them in the future. But the people doing this, were they aware of the danger of this thinking they've really come a long way just by buying a ticket and going? What is their danger? What is the responsibility of the Dalai Lama to say, I want them to plant the seed so they can have this in the future, but what if they misinterpret this and they end up in a tantric hell? What is this relationship?
And also, just because I was at them, he gives a very, very large explanation of dangers of tantric practice prematurely. But I understand you didn't know that before you bought your ticket. You didn't necessarily know what you were getting into. So that's a great question. It's asked a lot. Rinpoche, kontriwa de. The Nejor Lana mepi Jew, Nyamlen Chena, Yapo Mashina the Migyawa yon. The Yayum, the Nyamlenche, then the Hakogamare, the Ne, Nyawagi Jew, the Nga Becha Kashe Kelen, then Nejor Lana Mepi Jew, the Dorje Nyawa Yure, the Dorje Nyawa, then the Nejor Lana Mepi Jew, the Truna, the Ne, the Nyawa, Yine Nga Nyawa Yure, then Kongichiwa the Dukor Wang Chen, Jiao Rinpoche, the Sansa me boom, Nangdu. Yene, the Konso Hako Gamare, the Nutra Yure. Ganyan Sena, the Yapo Nyamlen, Yapo Machena, Nutra Yongare. Dene Garishene, Jiao Rinpoche, the Dukor Wang Nang. Ganyan Sena, the Me Kanga, the Nutra Hako Gamare. Konso Ticket Nyona, the Ticket. The Chu, Dukor Wanchen, Lena, Dene, the Shanchu Sembi Dumba, Dang, Nga, Dumba, Nyamlen Machena, Nyawa Drogare. The ticket, the Yomare. Dene Garishene, Jiao Rinpoche, Nejor Alana Mepi Ju, Me Mambo Tegudu. Garishene.
There's a more penalties.
Then Garishene. That's more alaro now, Rinpoche. Gangisene, the Denden Yen, the Nga. The me mambo the Nyapo Mashena Nutra then the Garishine
the Jine Tua Combo
the K Chempo
the Lekon
less so
the Lekon by Song so what the Hagan Legena Nago the Chamandi the Talis Honju Generous. Go back to
the ne Sampa the Dorje Nyawa, the Konso, the Nyamlen She Ho Hako Gamare, Dukor Wan, the Shelup Dan Drapodu, Gangisena, the Kon, the Gombo Yomare, the Gon Sanlo, the Yomare, Nga, the Shanchu Sembi Dumba Chak, Sanlo Yomare, the Nga Dumba Chak Sanlo Yomare, Gangisena Konso Hako Gamare, Konso Shanchu Semba Yomare, Den Sunsan Kon Wang Nangmason. Ribe, Wang Le. The Shanchu Semba Mayimba, the Wang Lengamare, Wang Dan Drapo Len. Wang Nang. So, okay. The reasoning is this. Of the 1,000 Buddhas that will come, only 4 of them will teach Tantra. So Tantric teachings are extremely rare. To be able to meet with a Tantric teaching in any lifetime, we'll just understand. And 1,000 Buddhas will come in this particular time period. Buddha Shakyamuni came 2,500 years ago. Lord Maitreya is supposed to come, I don't know how many, but a long time from now, later, and will not teach Tantra. So the opportunity that we have now to meet with those Tantric teachings has to be taken. And because we aren't advanced practitioners, some of us aren't advanced practitioners. When I said to Rinpoche, when you bought your ticket, it doesn't say on the ticket, by the way, if you don't practice this right, if you don't keep the Bodhisattva vows, if you don't keep the 8 root and 14 secondary tantric vows or the second 2 intermediate vows, you'll go to hell. It doesn't say that on your ticket. I said to Rinpoche, He said, but first of all, the people who mostly are going there don't even know anything about those vows and aren't really practitioners to the point where they could practice it. So he said the damage that they're going to do versus the virtue that is created by having these imprints, it's worth it. It's worth misunderstanding Tantra and having, Rinpoche said, and having bad rebirths because of it. It's worth it if you can meet with the swift path so that when you're ready to practice it, it's there for you. And if you don't have imprints, everything's causes and conditions. So to meet with Tantra, you have to have causes to meet with Tantra. So when you attend that highest yoga Tantra, not only Tantra, highest yoga Tantra initiation, you've just made it definite that you'll meet with it when you're ready. So you may, if you don't already have it, get bodhicitta, for instance, become a bodhisattva, and then a moment later, Kala Chakra appears in front of you and teaches you the practice because you went to that initiation. So it's about creating the imprints. And I also said, and Rinpoche agreed, that the reality is, if you look at the books in detail, if you are not a bodhisattva, you don't receive the initiation. You receive an imprint of an initiation. You receive a facsimile of an initiation, but you don't receive an initiation. Because in order to enter into a mandala, you have to be a bodhisattva. And in order to get a bodhisattva vow, you have to be a bodhisattva. And in order to have an initiation, you have to take the bodhisattva vow. So it's almost like the second thing you recite in the initiation basically tells you, oh, by the way, you're not getting this. Because you're taking the bodhisattva vow, but the only people who get bodhisattva vows are bodhisattvas. You have to have bodhicitta to actually get a bodhisattva vow. It's for bodhisattvas. It's a vow for bodhisattvas. So we're taking facsimiles of it so that we can meet with it in the future. And the danger, there is danger, and those are true, but the benefit outweighs the danger.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
I like that a lot better. I feel even better about
Yeah,
it. It's one of my beefs.
I can go home feeling good that I got my money's worth on the ticket.
Yeah.
I got some good virtue.
I always tell the story. I went to Kala Chakra and then did a Kala Chakra retreat, like weeks long, I don't even want to get into it, but it was just so full of ego and not Tantra and not a bodhisattva. And yeah, I did it in the old center, and it was like I was alone. I went crazy, basically, and luckily had enough Buddhism around me to snap out of it. But that's what happened on my silent retreat, because I was ready. I went to Kala Chakra, and I was Rinpoche's attendant at the time, and everybody was like, it was like Buddhism was hot at the time in the United States. Like the Milarepa Foundation was cooking, the Beastie Boys were talking about it, everyone had a Free Tibet sticker. So I would travel with Rinpoche, and I'd be like, almost like I was famous, you know? And I'd be like sitting on golf carts with Richard Gere. So I got this big ego at first that told me that I could go do a silent Kala Chakra retreat with Rinpoche right next door, probably laughing to himself. And I'll tell you, I went into states that were mental illness that weren't realization, 100%. As a beginning practitioner, trying to practice those advanced tantras and visualize some of the practices, mental illness started to occur. I was doing like not eating at night. I was doing the whole thing, the whole practice and the breathing, all that stuff, and because I had just enough information to be dangerous, and I don't advise it at all. But look how good I turned out, right? All right, anyway, are we good? Are we done? All right. The Rinpoche, ngama the ngatsu dukor wanchen peso. The ne nga leso. The nge sampa chishina nga nampa. The ne nga chishina dawa chi jema nge sam deso. Chenrezig chutsula nge donta chi. Nej de nga de dukor sam deso. Dene nge boom, zonga boom danson, dene de nga nyumba chasong. Nyumba dan drapu chasong, donda chi. Nga me jenda yomare, nge chipo, gonjasong. Then boom, zonga boom danson, then gom chutsu je, nima dakpar, de gomjasong. Then nge shuge chutsu ngapa lanson, then nge chutsu drupa de, then chutsu dumba de, nge de shuguchi son. Then nge the chutsu ju ni nima dakpar, nge gomja dang zonga danson, nyumba dan drar. Nge sampa nga doa tonson. Doa, smoke. Gangisene de dukor de yure. Then nge sampa nge tonson. Yine nyumba chason. Then nge de sam yapu da. Gangisene de yapu madana nyumba cha le labudu. Okay. So concluding mandal offering and dedication prayer. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drapa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well, with whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the 3 times. I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In that pure land, surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. All-powerful Avalokiteshvara Tenzin Gyatso, may you stay until samsara's end. I pray for the long life of the precious Khensur Wandak, upholder of scriptural and realizational doctrines, the spiritual friend who trained extensively in the 5 great philosophical texts with exceptional wisdom and perseverance. Suji Rinpoche Gusi Shapi Denonang. Natsu Umarinchin Chenmo Kongachironang.